In the year 2087, as neon lights shimmered across the towering skyline of Neo-Tokyo, Dr. Ryan Carter found himself cloistered within the advanced genetic research facility known as Cromwell Innovations. Despite the bustle of the city, the hush that permeated the laboratory's corridors provided Ryan with a refuge, a sanctum where the hum of machinery became a lullaby and rows of cryo-chambers seemed to stand as guardians of forgotten secrets. For a man who had dedicated the better part of a decade to genetic science, every day held promise, yet it also brought him one step closer to a creeping sense of unease he could not quite name. He was tall and angular, with sharp features softened by a certain warmth in his eyes, and though time had been kind to him physically, it had etched invisible lines of worry on his mind. Ryan had been working on advanced CRISPR models, his keen intellect fueled by a desire to eradicate human diseases at their genetic root. He believed science held the key to mankind's future, and he took pride in applying his expertise to problems that once were deemed unsolvable. However, in recent years, the corporate side of research had begun to overshadow the pure spirit of scientific inquiry. Funding had surged, but so had secrecy, and a perplexing shadow had fallen upon many projects in the lab. Rumors circulated among his colleagues of covert experiments and hidden agendas, matters that remained locked behind tungsten-reinforced doors. Ryan often dismissed such stories, believing them to be wild exaggerations. Yet, a small voice within him whispered that the truth might be far more extraordinary and far more dangerous than any rumor. Late one evening, with the digital clock above his workstation blinking steadily into the small hours, Ryan found himself alone. He was mapping a newly discovered gene sequence, lost in data streams and simulation results, when a sudden sensation of electricity charged the air around him. For the briefest moment, all the lights in the lab dimmed, flickered, then returned to normal brightness as if nothing unusual had happened. At first, he chalked it up to a glitch in the city's power grid, but as he looked up, he saw a figure standing in the doorway. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen, luminous silver-blue skin, gracefully tall, features both delicate and strangely regal. Her eyes, a deep violet, seemed to shimmer in the bright overhead lights. She took a cautious step into the lab, her attire reminiscent of standard-issue lab clothing, though the fabric seemed interwoven with faint metallic threads. Ryan felt a fleeting surge of alarm. The facility was supposedly impenetrable without the highest clearances, yet here she was, an otherworldly being, standing calmly in front of him. He resisted the urge to reach for the silent alarm. Something about her posture and the gentle curve of her face hinted that she meant no harm. "Dr. Ryan Carter," she said, her voice low and resonant, "I have been assigned to your research team." Ryan blinked, momentarily at a loss. No one had informed him of a new collaborator, let alone someone, or something, that appeared alien. He was about to speak when she continued, her tone carefully measured. "My name is Seren. I arrived earlier this afternoon, but they kept me for preliminary tests. I believe we will be working closely together." He studied her for a moment, searching for the right words. Despite his careful, methodical mind, any rational explanation for her appearance seemed inadequate. "Seren," he echoed quietly, the name gliding across his tongue, "I was not expecting anyone. Are you? Are you from a human colony off-world?" She paused, her expression gentle, though there was a note of sadness behind her eyes. "Not exactly." With the slightest tilt of her head, she walked deeper into the lab, glancing at the glass cylinders, the pipette arrays, and the luminous monitors that scrolled through lines of genetic code. "I believe you can help me, Dr. Carter, but you do not yet know the full nature of our work together." Even as confusion tumbled through his mind, Ryan found himself drawn to her presence. Her silver-blue skin caught the light with an opalescent shimmer, and when she turned, he glimpsed faint patterns that looked almost like runes etched into the surface, glowing softly along the curve of her arms. She seemed otherworldly, yet there was a gentle sincerity in her gaze. Finally, he managed to recover a vestige of composure. "All right, let's do this properly. Let me run a few standard scans, gather some data, and then we can talk about how exactly you came to be assigned to my team." Seren nodded, folding her hands in front of her. "Yes, but please, time may be shorter than you suspect." With that ominous note, Ryan motioned for her to follow him to a diagnostic chamber next to his main workstation. It contained a specialized device capable of scanning genetic material at unprecedented resolution. As Seren stepped into the cylindrical glass enclosure, Ryan activated the system. Lights flickered, monitors whirred, and soon streams of data flooded across the display. He watched as an array of sequences lit up in swirling patterns, perplexingly intricate, more complex than any human genome, and yet, There were anomalies, interruptions in the code, like lines of data forcibly mutated. A cold sensation settled in Ryan's stomach as he tried to parse the results. Seren, he said, not looking away from the monitor, do you know about these instabilities in your genetic code? Her expression turned thoughtful, though she showed little surprise. I suspect it is why I was sent here. This degradation is part of a larger plan, something designed to make my people dependent on human genetic engineering. Ryan leaned in, tapping lines of code to highlight them. Your DNA is fracturing, but I see consistent patterns, almost like a weaponized virus or a manipulated gene drive. But the question is, who did this, and why? She stepped out of the chamber, letting out a slow breath, her gaze briefly distant. I believe your corporation, Cromwell Innovations, engineered it, at least in partnership with several other powerful entities. For my species to survive, we must seek the help of human science. If left untreated, this induced deterioration will force us into subjugation. But they did not expect me to come here directly. Ryan was astonished. Could it be possible that the place he had dedicated his life to harbored such a dark conspiracy? Yet the evidence glimmered on the screen, an incontrovertible testament to meddling that transcended standard ethical lines. I had no idea, he murmured, feeling both betrayal and a tremor of anger. But there must be a way to help you. She nodded, her expression devoid of triumph. That is why I sought you specifically, Dr. Carter. According to my people's intelligence, you are the best chance I have, for you abide by your principles, and you possess the knowledge we need. For a long moment, they simply stared at one another, the hush of the laboratory pressing upon them like a vast, invisible tide. At last, Ryan drew a shaky breath. If this is true, then we have to act quickly. The sequences are unraveling, and we have limited time before the changes become irreversible. He paused, uncertain. You mentioned you've been assigned to me. How did you even get clearance? Seren cast her gaze downward. I was brought here under the guise of a corporate exchange. They plan to monitor my progress, expecting me to rely upon your research. They aim to refine their control, but they don't yet realize that together, we may undo what they have done. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of what would happen if the corporation learned of his possible betrayal. A storm was brewing, and he stood at the eye of it. We'll figure out a solution, he said, voice steadier than he felt. Come with me. We need to gather more samples, run deeper tests, and see if there's a gene therapy that can repair your DNA. She placed a hand gently on his forearm, the warmth of her touch surprising. Thank you, she whispered. You must know, however, that the cure may come at a price, one higher than you would willingly pay. He studied her a moment, a flicker of concern in his eyes, but the resolve in his heart burned bright. Let me worry about that. They worked through the night, analyzing the streaming lines of code, testing Seren cells in specialized cultures that responded to complex enzyme solutions. Ryan watched in fascination and horror as the manipulated DNA strands resisted every standard remedy. Each time, the code adapted, unraveling with cunning speed. By dawn, he realized that conventional gene editing tools would fail. The process needed a radical solution, one that might break the boundaries separating species altogether. In the hush of early morning, while the neon glow of the city faded into a silver twilight, Ryan caught movement outside the lab's glass window. He saw the silhouette of an unfamiliar security drone drifting by, scanning the hallways. His gut twisted with an instinctual sense of danger. Word of Seren's presence had no doubt spread to the higher-ups. This is worse than I feared, he muttered, glancing over at Seren. I can feel the walls closing in. She came to stand beside him, a quiet presence of calm amidst the chaos. Cromwell Innovations will try to secure their hold on me, especially if they sense you're getting too close to a cure. Ryan's mind raced. The final test results had shown him only one plausible option, a complete biological bond that required rewriting not just Seren's DNA, but also human DNA to create a stable hybrid blueprint. The ramifications were staggering. It was a procedure so experimental that no institution had greenlit even preliminary trials. To attempt it on a living being was to roll dice with cosmic fate. Yet the alternative was unthinkable: Seren's continued genetic dissolution, the inevitable extinction of her species if the virus was truly widespread. A wave of emotion swept through him as he said, I've found a possible solution, but it's not simple. It's not safe. In fact, it's practically science fiction even by our standards. She waited, silent yet intent, as though bracing herself. Ryan continued, measuring his words carefully, we can't just fix your genetic code. The virus, or the weaponized pathogen, whatever it is, will adapt and reassert its hold. But if we integrate our genetic structures, meld them, in essence, so that you share certain human DNA segments while I, in turn, incorporate some of yours, then we might produce a new, stable genome that can't be overridden by the corporate virus. It's beyond any conventional therapy. It would transform us both. Seren's violet eyes darkened. How complete would this transformation be? He swallowed. Complete enough to change who we are at a fundamental level. It's not simply a graft. It's a reconfiguration of our biological identities. And once it's done, there's no going back. For a moment, neither spoke. The distant hum of computers and the faint chirping of security drones in the hall were the only sounds. Then Seren took a slow breath. I came here knowing the price might be high, she said, voice trembling with suppressed emotion. My life has been a series of forced compromises, all to protect my people. If this is the only way, then so be it. Still, I would not ask you to sacrifice your humanity for my sake. Ryan glanced at his reflection in the polished steel of a dormant console. He saw a tired man, standing at the precipice of an unfathomable decision. In that reflection, he noticed the laboratory's flickering fluorescent lights, the unspoken weight of the city's future, and a sliver of fear in his own eyes. But he also saw something else, compassion, the very trait that had guided him through countless nights of research, determined to make the world a better place. If we don't do this, he said quietly, the alternative is to let you die. And let your people remain under the corporation's thumb, perhaps die out entirely if they refuse compliance. I can't stand by. This is bigger than either one of us, Seren. A single tear, shimmering like liquid crystal, trailed down her silver-blue cheek. Human, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, my fate is in your hands. I have no right to plead, but I do. Ryan gave a slow nod, heart heavy but resolved. We'll do it, he said. But we have to move fast. I'll gather the equipment, then we find somewhere safe to perform the procedure. We certainly can't do it here. The tension in the lab mounted with every passing second. Emails from department heads began flooding Ryan's inbox, all bearing cryptic references to Project Meridian and asset containment. He overheard hushed conversations in the corridor, talk of new security contractors, mention of specialized hunters genetically engineered to track anomalies. The sense of an invisible net closing around them was almost palpable. Under the pretext of retrieving critical research files, Ryan quietly arranged transport to an off-site facility he used occasionally for freelance consultancy. It was a modest, private lab on the outskirts of Neo-Tokyo, once a warehouse for storing old robotics. Now it was filled with the remnants of outdated machines, leftover analysis tools, and a handful of cryo-chambers that had never been fully decommissioned. Far from the prying eyes of corporate security, it seemed like their best chance. Seren, cloaked in a hooded garment that hid her alien features, followed him through the labyrinth of city streets. The harsh neon of downtown gave way to dimly lit alleys, where neon signs flickered, half-broken, and stray hovercars zipped overhead. While drifting through the crowds, Ryan sensed watchers in the periphery, figures wearing dark suits, lingering in doorways, or perched behind tinted glass. His heart hammered in his chest, every nerve alive with suspicion. If they were caught, he knew, the corporation's mercenaries would show no mercy. It was nearly midnight when they reached the abandoned warehouse, its towering doors creaking open under a rusted mechanism. Inside, dust swirled beneath feeble overhead lights. Here, Ryan set up the equipment needed for the procedure, a specialized gene sequencer, multiple fluidic tubes for targeted CRISPR manipulations, a repurposed cryochamber lined with scanning instruments. It was a patchwork of technology, raw and improvised. But it was all they had. This place isn't pretty, he admitted, but it'll have to do. We can't risk using the main Cromwell labs with all their surveillance. Seren nodded, a faint wry smile curving her lips. Function is all that matters now. Then her eyes flickered to the swirling dust motes. Though I hope this procedure doesn't require complete sterility. Ryan let out a short, tense laugh. We'll do what we can to sanitize the environment. And once we begin, the procedure will happen swiftly. The gene sequencer I brought runs advanced protocols. The transformation, however, well, it could take hours, maybe days, to stabilize. I'm not entirely certain. She lowered her gaze, her hands clasped in front of her. Whatever it takes, I'm ready. They spent the next hour meticulously preparing the machinery, hooking up lines, calibrating monitors, running final checks on the genetic editing software. Ryan methodically extracted samples of both their blood, analyzing them once again. The results reaffirmed that only a radical integration could halt the deterioration. As the process whirred to life, he glanced at Seren, whose gaze was distant, as though she were steeling herself for a final leap into the unknown. When everything was in place, Ryan stood by the cryo chamber's open hatch. "I'll go first," he said softly. "I'll let the sequencer begin the modifications on me. Then we'll do yours. The data suggests that, once my DNA is partly rewritten, it will serve as a stable anchor for yours. We'll merge them once each of us is primed." It sounds insane to say it out loud. Seren touched his arm, the warmth of her skin sending a shiver through him. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will not forget this." He nodded, wishing he could offer a reassuring smile. But the gravity of the moment weighed too heavily. Climbing into the cryo chamber, he felt a chill seep into his bones as the transparent lid sealed overhead. Lights danced across his vision, and he heard the whir of pumps filling the chamber with a specialized solution, designed to keep his body stable during the invasive gene manipulation. The last thing he saw before slipping into sedation was Seren's silhouette, standing watch, her head bowed in silent hope. Hours bled into an uncertain dawn. Ryan emerged from the sedation feeling weak and disoriented. His body ached, and a tingling sensation coursed through his veins as though microscopic fires danced beneath his skin. The warehouse lights seemed oddly bright, and every sound echoed with surreal clarity. He tried to sit up, but found the effort monumental. Seren was at his side in an instant, helping him. "You made it," she said softly, relief shining in her eyes. "The data indicates the procedure was successful. Your genome has been reconfigured to accept the new sequences." He groaned, pressing a hand to his temple. "I feel like I've been run over by a freight barge. Did anything happen? Any immediate changes?" Seren's gaze flicked over him, and he noticed a strange new reflection in her pupils, almost as if her eyes were measuring his vital signs. "Your appearance is still the same, though the scanners show fluctuations in your metabolic rate. It's possible your cells are still adjusting." Ryan managed a weary nod. "Your turn, then." He motioned to the chamber. "Let's not waste any time. The longer we wait, the more the deterioration might accelerate in you." Seren offered a trembling smile, a mixture of gratitude and trepidation, and climbed into the cryo chamber. Ryan helped attach the biosensors to her arms, feeling an unexpected jolt of electricity when his fingers brushed her luminous skin. Despite his exhaustion, he carefully activated the sequence. The machine hummed, bathing the interior in a kaleidoscope of shifting lights, while Seren's eyes fluttered closed. A sudden crash jolted Ryan from his vigil. The warehouse door exploded inward, the reinforced metal squealing in protest. A squad of black-clad mercenaries flooded into the cavernous space, their movements unervingly synchronized. At their forefront stood a tall figure wearing an armored bodysuit that glinted under the harsh overhead lamps. His face was concealed by a visor, but Ryan recognized him from rumors whispered in Cromwell's hallways. A genetically engineered hunter known only as Umbra. "Dr. Carter." A voice crackled through the man's comm system. "Step away from the chamber." Ryan's heart slammed against his ribcage, adrenaline flooding his veins. He glanced at Seren inside the chamber, unconscious, vulnerable. The procedure was still running. If it was interrupted now, it could kill her, or worse, lock her in a half-transformed state. Ryan raised his hands, trying to project calm. "If you pull the plug on that machine, she will die." Umbra's visor revealed nothing, but the mercenaries' weapons remained trained on Ryan. "You've gone rogue, Carter," the man said. "Hand over the alien asset, and you may still salvage a fraction of your life. The corporation wants her alive, but they don't care about the shape she's in, if you catch my meaning." Ryan glanced around for any path to resist, but the odds were stacked against him. He could only stall. "Listen to me. If you disrupt this process, she will be lost. The data you want, the advantage you think you'll gain, it'll vanish. The entire project will be meaningless." Umbra hesitated, his posture a fraction less rigid. Clearly, even among these hardened hunters, the corporation's lust for advanced genetic breakthroughs was paramount. "How long until the process is complete?" Ryan checked the monitor. "We need another 30 minutes. If you can wait, then you'll have her, stable, and the data will be intact. If you stop it now, everything is gone." The mercenaries exchanged glances, and Umbra's voice crackled again. "Fine. 30 minutes, no more. Then we take her." Ryan's mind raced as he leaned over the monitor, apparently checking the status. Even as the code scrolled, he whispered under his breath, careful to not move his lips too noticeably. "Seren, if you can hear me, we're in trouble." He didn't know if she could sense him. She lay unmoving under the swirling lights, her silver-blue skin taking on a luminescent glow as the gene sequencer continued its work. Tension mounted with each passing second. The mercenaries formed a perimeter around the chamber, and Ryan could almost taste their impatience, a predatory aura coiling in the musty air. 15 minutes passed in excruciating silence. Then, with a sharp hiss, the machine's lights dimmed, and a gentle chime signaled the end of the procedure. Ryan sprang into action, flipping the release mechanism that would drain the chamber of its stabilizing fluid. The glass lid rose with a soft whoosh, revealing Seren inside, eyes still closed, her breathing shallow. For a moment, Ryan feared the worst, that something had gone wrong. Then, her eyelids fluttered, and she exhaled a trembling breath. "You're up," Umbra barked. "Move aside." Ryan backed away as two mercenaries approached the cryo chamber, weapons raised. But before they could reach Seren, her eyes flew open. An incandescent glow suffused her gaze, and a sudden ripple of force pulsed through the warehouse, causing the mercenaries to stumble. With impossible grace, she rose from the chamber, fluid dripping from her hair, her posture poised like a dancer in the midst of a final performance. Umbra snarled a command, and the mercenaries opened fire, streaks of fluorescent energy lancing across the space. Seren moved faster than Ryan could register, weaving through the barrage with unnerving precision. One of the beams grazed her arm, but instead of a burn, it left a brief flicker of that silver-blue luminescence, which then dissipated. Ryan felt a sudden surge of energy in his own veins, as if Seren's transformation was somehow linked to him. "Stop!" Umbra roared, but his men could not land a clean hit. Seren's movements were uncanny, each limb snapping into position to avoid or deflect the attacks. In a flash, she closed the distance to the nearest mercenary, disarming him with a single, fluid motion. An indescribable sense of urgency welled within Ryan as he realized that both their genetic codes had changed, forging a bond that might grant them abilities beyond normal human capability. With a surge of instinct, Ryan snatched a fallen energy pistol. His mind flashed with sudden clarity, and he found that, somehow, he knew exactly how to operate the weapon. The moment he pulled the trigger, the energy beam sliced through the air with startling precision, pinning two more mercenaries behind a stack of crates. Shock and alarm flickered through his thoughts. What have I become? Amid the chaos, Umbra charged forward, brandishing a sleek baton that crackled with lethal current. He swung it at Seren, but her reflexes proved faster, and she pivoted gracefully aside. Yet Umbra was no ordinary human. Enhanced reflexes and bionic implants glinted beneath the gaps in his armor. He unleashed a flurry of strikes, forcing Seren to retreat. Watching their movements felt like witnessing a dance of giants. Each blow delivered with inhuman speed, each dodge a fluid shift of momentum. "Ryan," Seren called out, voice ringing clear over the tumult. "We must leave." He nodded, searching for an escape route. While Seren kept Umbra occupied, Ryan sprinted toward the rear of the warehouse, scanning for a door or corridor that might lead them out. He found a service exit tucked behind a row of obsolete cargo lifts. Banging a fist against its control pad, he prayed it wasn't locked down. It hissed open, revealing a narrow corridor that led to the city's underworks. "Seren, this way," he shouted. She spun away from Umbra, her silver-blue skin shimmering with an inner luminescence that intensified with each passing moment. As if guided by that same luminous energy, she darted past the remaining mercenaries. At the threshold of the exit, she paused, turning back to face Umbra, who lunged after her. An expression flitted across her face, somewhere between pity and resolve. Then she raised her hand, and a wave of concussive force blasted across the space, hurling Umbra and his men to the floor. In the echoing silence that followed, Seren turned and dashed through the door, following Ryan. They ran through the corridor, their breaths ragged, hearts pounding with mingled fear and exhilaration. Flickering emergency lights cast eerie shapes on the walls, while behind them they heard the muffled curses of the mercenaries, the mechanical clang of pursuit. Ryan felt a jolt in his chest, an awareness that something had awakened within him. His senses felt sharper, more attuned, and every time he glanced at Seren, who moved with fluid precision at his side, an electric thrill pulsed through the air between them. Eventually, they emerged onto a deserted side street in the city's industrial sector. The labyrinth of towering pipes and steel walkways stretched in every direction. Far above, the neon glow of Neo-Tokyo's central district flickered like distant stars. For a moment, they slumped against a rusted wall, trying to catch their breath. Ryan's mind churned with questions. The union of their DNA had done more than cure Seren. It had created something entirely new, a merging of human and alien potential that the corporation would stop at nothing to control. As their breathing steadied, Seren turned to him, her eyes glowing softly in the gloom. "We have to keep moving. They won't stop until they find us." Ryan nodded, pushing away thoughts of rest or safety. They had crossed an irreversible line, and the only way out was to unravel the conspiracy that had spawned this nightmare. "We need answers," he said, "not just for ourselves, but for everyone, human and alien alike." Thus began their journey through Neo-Tokyo's underbelly. They navigated winding alleys, seeking temporary refuge in abandoned apartment blocks and derelict biotech labs that had been left to rot when corporations consolidated their power. Everywhere they turned, they encountered signs of how far Cromwell's reach extended. Security drones patrolled the skies, scanning the faces of passers-by. Holographic billboards broadcast messages of loyalty and compliance, urging citizens to report suspicious activity. Over the following days, Ryan's body continued to change. Subtle at first, the heightened senses, the tingling energy beneath his skin. But then more dramatic shifts took hold. He found he could heal minor cuts within minutes. And sometimes, when he concentrated, a faint luminescence danced across his fingertips, echoing the glow of Seren's skin. She experienced her own transformations as well, discovering that her telepathic senses had amplified in the presence of humans, allowing her to glean surface emotions. The bond between them forged an unspoken connection. At times, Ryan felt Seren's presence flicker in his thoughts, a delicate echo of her emotions merging with his. Meanwhile, Seren's physical condition stabilized far beyond what Ryan had dared hope. The fracturing of her DNA ceased, replaced by a new synergy that baffled even her. "It's as though we've created a brand new species," she remarked, touching the faint patterns on her arms, which now shimmered with an ever-shifting design. Ryan could only agree, marveling at how smoothly their genes had integrated. In a hidden black market tech bazaar deep under the city, they met with an informant, an old colleague of Ryan's named Saito, who had been fired from Cromwell under suspicious circumstances. Saito was a wiry man with a perpetual twitch in his left eye, but he possessed a cunning intellect and a knack for finding restricted information. Under neon lights that flickered ominously, Saito showed them encrypted files referencing Project Meridian. The content was staggering, a corporate program designed to forcibly bind alien genetics to human DNA, creating a race of hybrids under corporate control. Seren's species had been the prime target, as their unique physiology could be molded to enhance human capabilities. "This is bigger than you realize," Saito hissed, his eyes darting around the bazaar. "They're not just doing it to subjugate one alien race. They want to refine a formula for the next stage of human evolution. Once they master it, they'll roll it out city-wide, planet-wide. They'll control who evolves and who doesn't." Ryan felt a chill ripple through him. He recalled the reason he had chosen the path of genetic research, to better humanity, not to enslave or exploit. Now, Cromwell planned to twist the future of both humans and aliens alike. If they succeeded, all freedom, biological, social, and personal, would be lost beneath the corporate boot. "We have to expose this," Ryan said through clenched teeth. "The public needs to know." Seren, standing at his side, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "But will they believe it?" she asked softly. "Who holds the media's strings? Who controls the flow of information? If Cromwell's influence is as pervasive as it seems, they can suppress or distort anything we release." Saito nodded grimly, packing up his hack tool. "They own the mainstream outlets, for sure. But there's a group of whistleblowers on the net, an underground channel known as the White Phoenix. If anyone can broadcast the truth, it's them." Securing the data on a portable drive, Ryan and Seren left the bazaar, determined to reach the White Phoenix network. Their journey took them through labyrinthine tunnels and rickety hover tram lines that cut through the city's lower levels. They passed ragged crowds living in crumbling dwellings, people left behind by the promise of corporate prosperity. Every so often, children would stare at Seren, perhaps sensing something ethereal about her presence. She would offer them a gentle smile, though sadness clouded her eyes. Despite traveling under the radar, a sense of impending confrontation weighed upon them. They glimpsed wanted posters bearing Ryan's face, stylized and ominous, labeling him a corporate traitor. Rumors surfaced of an elite strike team, genetically enhanced, hunting them through the city. The seeds of paranoia sprouted in every shadow. Yet, pressed together by circumstance, Ryan and Seren found moments of unexpected closeness, sharing stories of their pasts, opening hearts that had long borne the burden of secrets. Slowly, a fragile tenderness emerged between them, underscored by the knowledge that they now shared a bond deeper than flesh. At last, they reached an underground communication hub rumored to belong to the White Phoenix. The entrance was hidden behind a false wall in what appeared to be an abandoned shipping container yard. Passing through a dim corridor lit by flickering LED strips, they entered a cavernous space filled with rows of improvised servers, humming in the darkness. A tall figure stepped forward, her hair braided with fiber-optic threads that glowed faintly. She introduced herself as Kyoko, chief strategist of the White Phoenix, her gaze sharp as a hawk's. "We've been expecting you," she said, voice a quiet thunder in the hush of the server room. "We've seen glimpses of your story circulating on the black web, and we have reason to believe you carry the final piece we need." Ryan handed her the portable drive. "This has everything: blueprints, research logs, the entire outline of Project Meridian. Enough proof to damn Cromwell Innovations." Kyoko studied the drive, her expression grave. "We can broadcast it through our network. But be warned, the moment we go public, Cromwell will unleash every resource to shut us down. This city could become a war zone." Seren's eyes flickered, reflecting the server lights. "If we do nothing, the consequences are far worse. We must ensure our message is heard, not just here, but across the off-world colonies, so that my people may know the truth as well." Kyoko gave a curt nod. "Then we don't hesitate. Prepare yourselves. Once we initiate the broadcast, we'll have a small window before the corporate counterattack hits." They hurried to fortify the hub, sealing off entrances, preparing remote backups, and rigging decoy signals to buy time. Techs in ragged hoodies typed furiously at battered terminals. Despite the flurry of activity, an undercurrent of dread coursed through them all. They were about to fling a spark into a powder keg that had been years in the making. As Kyoko's team completed final checks, the main screen flared to life. A swirling holographic phoenix appeared, spreading its wings across the dark. Lines of code scrolled rapidly, and in the corner of the display, camera feeds captured the flickering neon metropolis above. With a resolute whisper of final commands, Kyoko said, "Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. The signal burst forth. Within seconds, the Phoenix network hammered citywide nodes, relaying the data in encrypted micropackets that circumvented corporate firewalls. The screen showed feed after feed, captured documents bearing Cromwell's logos, testimonies from coerced scientists, images of alien captives subjected to invasive tests. Then came the blueprint for the next phase, forcibly altering human embryos to incorporate the integrated alien genes, effectively manufacturing a new race under total corporate dominion. An eerie hush settled over the hub, as though even the machines were holding their breath. Then, with a sudden crackle, alarms erupted across every console. Flickers of static marred the displays, and sparks flew from overloaded circuits. An incoming wave of interference hammered at their system, attempts by Cromwell to jam the broadcast. Outside, a heavy rumbling shook the walls, as if thunder had cracked the sky in two. Kyoko's voice was taut with tension. "They're coming. We need to hold them off long enough for the data to spread beyond the city. Once it hits the outer networks, we'll be unstoppable." Ryan and Seren exchanged a grim look. Both felt the weight of responsibility and the energy of their shared transformation coursing through them. This was the confrontation they had tried to avoid, but destiny refused to grant them a gentle path. Together, they rushed to defend the main entrance, along with a handful of White Phoenix operatives armed with improvised plasma rifles. The assault came in a flurry of smoke and laser fire. Cromwell's strike team battered down the sealed barriers. Drones buzzed through the air, spitting electric arcs that crackled across the floor. But the whistleblower network fought back fiercely, guided by Kyoko's strategic brilliance. Bolts of energy lit the darkness, and the acrid scent of scorched metal filled the air. Ryan found himself in the thick of it, returning fire with unwavering accuracy. Each shot felt guided by an otherworldly sense of precision, as though Seren's reflexes and instincts had merged with his own. Across the room, Seren engaged multiple assailants with her uncanny grace, disarming them with fluid strikes. At one point, a wave of bullets ricocheted off a piece of shattered machinery, heading straight for her. She flung out her hand, and a shimmering field of luminescent energy flared into existence, deflecting the bullets harmlessly aside. The sight took Ryan's breath away, a stark reminder that neither of them were merely human or alien anymore. Amid the chaos, Umbra strode in like a harbinger of doom. His visor glowed scarlet, his armor marred by scorch marks from their previous encounter. With a cold, methodical purpose, he made his way towards Seren, hurling aside anyone who dared step in his path. When their eyes locked, a tremor of tension rippled through the battlefield. Once again, their confrontation had the air of an inevitable reckoning. This time, Seren did not wait for him to strike. She lunged forward, channeling the pulsating energy within her, weaving it through her arms. Her fists glimmered with arcs of silver-blue light. Umbra met her head-on, baton sparking with lethal current. Blow after blow landed. Sparks leapt, metal shrieked. Arcs of light collided in a dazzling display that left onlookers momentarily blinded. Ryan, taking aim, tried to find an opening to help, but they moved too quickly, locked in a spiral of unimaginable force. Suddenly, Umbra seized Seren by the shoulder, driving his baton into her side with a sickening crackle of electricity. She gasped, her glow faltering, and was thrown across the chamber, slamming into a metal console. Ryan felt a surge of shared pain, as though her agony flowed through their psychic link. With fury pounding in his veins, he darted across the battlefield, stepping between Umbra and Seren. His arms trembled with an unfamiliar power. He could sense the swirl of their combined energies deep within his cells, and with sheer force of will, he let it surge through him. Umbra swung the baton again, but Ryan moved inhumanly fast, sidestepping the blow. He unleashed a pulse of raw energy that rippled across his skin, colliding with Umbra and sending him staggering backward. The mercenary growled, the visor cracked, revealing a single burning eye. He thrust forward once more, determined. But now Seren was on her feet again, pain etched across her features, anger shining in her violet eyes. Together, Ryan and Seren struck as one. Ryan channeling the telekinetic force that crackled through his cells, Seren lashing out with a blade of luminescent energy. Umbra's armor buckled under the assault, and with a final, echoing roar, he collapsed to his knees. Sparks danced across his broken visor as he raised his gaze. Ryan half expected to see regret or fear, but he saw only cold determination. Umbra spat a final curse, then toppled, losing consciousness. In the sudden lull, the White Phoenix forces rallied, driving back the last of the strike team. An uneasy hush followed. Smoke coiled from broken machinery, while alarms continued to wail in shrill protest. Sparks showered down from severed cables. Kyoko appeared at Ryan's side, grim satisfaction etched on her features. "It's done," she said, voice hoarse. "Our signal got through. The entire planet is reading Cromwell's secrets right now, and it's going interplanetary. We have word from the orbital satellites that the data is being relayed to off-world networks as well. They can't silence this anymore." Ryan let out a shuddering breath. So much had happened in so short a time. He glanced at Seren, who stood panting, eyes still glowing with the remnants of unleashed power. Despite her evident pain, a fierce relief shone in her expression. They had done it, defying the corporate machine and igniting a revolution of truth. In the days that followed, the city became a tempest of revelations. Protests erupted in the streets. Citizens rallied around the evidence of Cromwell's heinous experiments, demanding justice, demanding oversight of corporate power. Investigations swept through the highest offices of Cromwell Innovations, forcing board members to flee or face charges. Off-world embassies representing Seren's people called for immediate interventions and negotiations. Ryan and Seren, hailed by some as heroes and reviled by others as dangerous freaks, found themselves at the center of a rapidly unfolding new era. White Phoenix safeguarded them for as long as possible, though the group's own operations had come under intense scrutiny. Yet, in a surprising turn of events, an unprecedented coalition of activists, rogue scientists, and sympathetic politicians rose up, supporting Ryan and Seren's cause. Public sentiment surged in their favor, fueled by images of the corporate labs, by confessions from coerced employees, by the undeniable truth that a new stage of evolution had been weaponized. Eventually, an emergency summit was called, one that included representatives of various alien races, Earth's political leaders, and newly appointed administrators from what remained of Cromwell innovations. The world, and indeed the galaxy, washed with bated breath as Ryan and Seren stepped onto the stage. The auditorium was immense, with cameras hovering at every angle, broadcasting the event to billions of viewers. Seren's silver-blue skin glowed softly under the stark lights. Ryan stood beside her, still feeling that mingled sense of awe and uncertainty at what he had become. "I stand here," Ryan said, voice resonating across the silent hall, "as someone who once believed corporations like Cromwell truly served humanity. I have seen firsthand how power can corrupt noble aims, how curiosity can be twisted into tyranny. But I've also seen hope in the hearts of those who risked everything to expose the truth." Seren then spoke, her words softly measured. "My people came to Earth long ago, seeking friendship. We did not expect betrayal. But through the bond Dr. Carter and I share, we have learned that two species need not subjugate one another. We can merge our strengths in mutual respect, not through forced experiments, but through cooperation. Our evolution must be guided by choice, by compassion, and by an unwavering commitment to preserve life." A thunderous silence followed. Then came applause, swelling and rolling through the hall like a tidal wave. The condemnation of Cromwell innovations was swift, and the corporation's assets were seized, its leadership forced to answer for their crimes. In a turning point for interplanetary relations, new safeguards were drafted, designed to protect genetic sovereignty for all beings, human and alien alike. Yet, amidst the public upheaval, Ryan and Seren found themselves swept into quieter moments of introspection. A whirlwind of official statements and media interviews dominated their lives for weeks, but at last, they were given a measure of privacy to recuperate in a secure, government-run facility overlooking Neo-Tokyo's sprawling skyline. One evening, after the sun had dipped behind the horizon, they stood on a balcony high above the city. The neon lights glimmered below like an ocean of vibrant color. "How are you feeling?" Ryan asked, gazing at Seren's profile. The transformations in his own body had stabilized, though he remained far from ordinary. At times, he could sense Seren's emotions like ripples in still water, and the faint glow across his skin had not entirely faded. She offered a gentle smile, tinged with lingering weariness. "Alive," she said, "and grateful. Our bond healed the wounds in my DNA, but it also changed me in ways I never anticipated." Her gaze swept over the city lights. "I can't speak for all my people, but I believe they will accept this new form of alliance. You and I represent what might be possible when trust bridges the gap between worlds." Ryan let out a quiet breath, the night air cool against his face. "We have a responsibility now, a chance to guide the future so that no corporation can repeat what Cromwell tried to do." She nodded. "Yes, and perhaps, one day, there will be children of two worlds, free to forge their own destinies. That is the hope I hold on to." In the hush that followed, Ryan reached out, hesitating only a moment before taking Seren's hand in his own. The silken warmth of her touch, tinged with an otherworldly luminescence, comforted him. The nightmares of the past weeks had weighed heavily, but in that single gesture, he felt a gentle reassurance, an affirmation that amidst the storm of revelations and the dread of what might come next, they had found an undeniable bond. Time passed, and the city began to heal. Cromwell innovations collapsed, replaced by a new coalition of biotech firms, each agreeing to strict ethical regulations. Laws were enacted that prevented exploitative research on any sentient being. Much of the galaxy watched in fascination, some in trepidation, as humanity confronted its own capacity for evolution. Ryan and Seren remained central figures in this new order, advising committees, sharing their story of how a desperate cure had inadvertently forged a higher union. Many feared them as harbingers of an uncontrolled genetic arms race. Yet the vast majority looked to them with hope, seeing in their bond a living testament to how different species and different hearts could coexist in harmony. For Ryan himself, life became a delicate balance. The transformations in his body granted insights into realms he had never dreamed possible, but they also required him to adapt continuously. Seren guided him, sharing knowledge of her people's culture and physiology, teaching him meditative techniques to harness their newfound abilities responsibly. The closer they grew, the more he realized their bond was more than biological. It was a convergence of paths, a merging of destinies born not out of ambition, but necessity, and tempered by mutual care. Years later, on a warm evening, a quiet celebration took place on an elevated terrace hidden among Neo-Tokyo's skyscrapers. A small circle of friends and allies gathered. Saito, with his ever-present twitch, Kyoko, still sporting her fiber-optic braids, and several alien representatives who had grown close to Seren. Soft lanterns swayed in the breeze, illuminating faces that had walked a long, treacherous road together. At the edge of the terrace, Ryan and Seren stood, their hands intertwined. She wore a simple gown that caught the starlight, accentuating her silver-blue skin, now faintly etched with new lines of living patterns that had emerged with time. Ryan's eyes held a warm glow, a subtle reflection of his connection to her. Kyoko raised a glass, a bright smile on her face. To impossible victories, she said, and to the dawn of a new age, where knowledge is shared, not hoarded, and no being is forced into servitude. Laughter and applause rippled through the gathering. Ryan bowed his head in acknowledgement, and Seren smiled softly, her gaze drifting across those assembled. "I once asked Dr. Carter to help me live," she said quietly. "I never imagined that in doing so, I would find a home, here, among humans, and within the heart of the one who saved me." Moved by her words, Ryan cleared his throat, a lump rising within him. "And I never dreamed that the path of science would lead to such a profound bond, or that we would stand here, together, celebrating a future once threatened by fear and greed." He squeezed Seren's hand gently, and she returned the gesture with a luminous shimmer that seemed to brighten the night. In that moment, a hush came over the terrace. The distant hum of hover cars and the glow of neon signs melted into the background. A sense of peace, of promise, enveloped them all. Though trials would undoubtedly come again, though the frontiers of genetic discovery would always tempt those hungering for power, this gathering stood as a testament to the power of unity, to the belief that, when hearts stand together, no shadow can fully extinguish their light. And so, with the city's lights sparkling below, Ryan and Seren closed their eyes, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Two lives forged into one destiny, two races intertwined, not by force, but by choice. The transformations they had undergone, both within and around them, culminated in a single, beautiful truth. Life, in all its myriad forms, blossoms best when nurtured by mutual respect and hope. In the grand tapestry of cosmic affairs, they were but one thread among countless stars. Yet their story resonated, echoing across worlds, whispering of what miracles might unfold when trust conquers fear, when compassion thwarts exploitation, and when a human being dares to take an alien's hand, saying, "Your fate is in my hands. Yes, but together, we will shape it anew." Their gaze turned skyward, to the infinite sprawl of stars, and somewhere amid that shimmering expanse, they felt a collective heartbeat. It was the call of both their species, united at last, a testament that in the vastness of the universe, the bonds we forge can light the way forward. And in that shared illumination, they found, at long last, a happy ending, one that promised not an end, but a beginning richer and more hopeful than any they could have imagined.